You think your body is normal, average, symmetrical, standard human blueprint. But what if I told you millions of people are walking around with structural changes inside their own bodies, and they have absolutely no idea? Not diseases, not dramatic mutations, just tiny hidden alterations in bone, cartilage, muscles, nerves, and connective tissue that quietly change the way they breathe, walk, sleep, stand, even the way their heart and lungs function. And the strangest part, many people spend years treating the symptoms without ever discovering the actual cause. The headaches, the back pain, the snoring, the jaw tension, the knee problems, the exhaustion. Sometimes the problem was there the entire time, hidden in plain sight. So, in this video, we are decoding the hidden body variations millions of people have without knowing it. And by the end, you may discover your body has been leaving clues your entire life. Let's start with something almost nobody realizes they have. Your nose may not actually be straight. Inside your nose is a wall called the septum. It separates your two nasal passages. In theory, air should flow evenly through both sides. But in reality, around 80% of people have some degree of septal deviation, meaning the wall is shifted slightly to one side. For some people, it does nothing. But for others, one side constantly feels blocked. They breathe louder at night. They snore harder. Some even develop sleep apnea because airflow is partially restricted while they sleep. And most never suspect structure. They blame allergies for 10 years, while the actual issue is mechanical. Now, here's where this gets weird. Your body is a master of compensation. If one system shifts, another system adapts, which brings us to the spine. Look at someone from behind. Are their shoulders perfectly level? Their hips? Probably not. Mild scoliosis is far more common than most people realize. Instead of the spine running perfectly straight, it develops a subtle S or C-shaped curve, small enough to go unnoticed, big enough to slowly redistribute weight across the body for decades. One shoulder slightly higher, one hip pushed outward, one side of the back constantly tighter than the other. And over years, the body slowly wears unevenly like a car with bad alignment. Most people are told to fix their posture without realizing the structure itself may actually be different. And that idea, tiny shifts creating huge downstream effects, shows up everywhere in the body, especially in your feet. Roughly 30% of people have partially collapsed arches, flat feet. At first that sounds harmless, until you realize your arches are supposed to act like shock absorbers every time your foot hits the ground. When they collapse, the ankles roll inward, the knees rotate slightly, the hips compensate, the lower back follows. The pain often appears far away from the actual cause. Knee pain, shin splints, lower back tightness, plantar fasciitis. People treat every symptom separately, while the real issue is happening at ground level, thousands of times per day with every single step. And if you think that sounds subtle, wait until you see what your toes can do to the rest of your skeleton. Look at your foot right now. If your second toe is longer than your big toe, that's called Morton's toe. It changes the way pressure moves through your foot during walking. The big toe loses leverage. More force shifts into the forefoot. That altered mechanics chain travels upward into the knees, hips, and lower back. Some people even develop nerve thickening between the toes, called Morton's neuroma, because of years of abnormal pressure distribution. A slightly different toe length, changing the mechanics of your entire body. And if you think that sounds subtle, wait until you hear this next one. Right now, your head probably weighs about 10 to 12 pounds, but your neck may be carrying 40. Forward head posture happens when the skull drifts in front of the shoulders instead of staying stacked above them. Phones, computers, desk work, years of looking slightly downwards slowly retrain the entire structure, and your neck pays for it. For every inch the head moves forward, the effective load on the cervical spine dramatically increases. At 3 inches forward, your neck is essentially supporting the weight of a small child all day long. The body adapts, muscles shorten, vertebrae remodel, tension becomes permanent. And because it happens gradually, people stop noticing. They just think headaches are normal now. Jaw pain becomes normal. Shoulder tightness becomes normal. Neck stiffness becomes normal. Your body can normalize dysfunction frighteningly well, sometimes for decades. Sometimes these variations are so harmless looking, most people never even question them, like your pinky finger. If it bends slightly inward toward your ring finger, that's called clenodactyly. Around 10% of people have some degree of it, usually genetic, usually harmless. Most people notice it once, then completely forget about it for the rest of their lives. But the next condition may be hiding inside your own mouth right now, and changing the way you breathe while you sleep. Lift your tongue. Underneath it is a small band of tissue called the lingual frenulum. In some people, it's too short or too tight. This is tongue tie. Most people associate it with babies and breastfeeding problems. But mild tongue tie in adults often goes completely undiagnosed. The tongue compensates, the jaw compensates, the neck compensates. And over years, this can contribute to jaw tension, speech changes, sleep-disordered breathing, and even altered airway dynamics during sleep. Imagine living your entire life adapting to a structural restriction without ever knowing it exists. And now, we get to one of the most psychologically hidden conditions on this list: pectus excavatum, funnel chest. In roughly 1 out of every 300 people, the sternum sinks inward, creating a visible depression in the center of the chest. Mild cases disappear under clothing. Moderate cases can actually reduce lung expansion and slightly displace the heart. Some people avoid beaches, pools, intimacy, locker rooms for years without even knowing the condition has a name. And this is what's fascinating. Some hidden body variations hurt physically. Others hurt psychologically. But both change behavior. Now let me show you one almost nobody recognizes. Ask someone to push against a wall and look at their shoulder blades. Sometimes one shoulder blade lifts outward like a wing. Winged scapula, usually caused by weakness or nerve dysfunction affecting the serratus anterior muscle. People describe vague shoulder pain, weakness overhead, strange instability, and once again, they get told the same thing: bad posture. But posture is often the visible result, not the root cause, and your body keeps compensating, sometimes unevenly. Leg length differences are incredibly common. Up to 2 centimeters of difference can exist without people realizing it. One hip subtly higher, one side dropping slightly during walking, one side of the lower back constantly absorbing more stress. Over thousands of steps per day, year after year, the body adapts into asymmetry. And most people never once have their legs measured. Now here's one you've probably never checked in your life: your uvula, that small hanging structure at the back of your throat. In some people, it's split into 2 parts, a bifid uvula, usually harmless, often unnoticed forever. But technically, it's considered a microform of cleft palate development, which means your body may still carry tiny fingerprints from fetal development you never knew existed. And some are even stranger. Look just in front of your ear. Some people have a tiny pinhole there called a preauricular pit. It forms during fetal ear development when tissue structures don't completely fuse together. Most people never notice it unless it becomes infected. It's basically a tiny leftover developmental tunnel beneath the skin. And then there's this. Some people literally have an extra nipple. Not a joke. During fetal development, humans form something called the milk line, running from the armpits down toward the groin. Normally, almost all of that tissue disappears before birth. Sometimes part of it remains. Most supernumerary nipples are mistaken for moles forever, which means thousands of people may have spent their lives casually looking at a third nipple without realizing what it actually is. And the body still gets stranger. Inside the foot, some people develop an extra bone called an accessory navicular near the arch. Most never know it exists. Others spend years treating plantar fasciitis that never improves, because the pain is actually coming from an entirely different structure hidden inside the foot. Wrong diagnosis, wrong treatment, same pain. And finally, one of the most misunderstood body changes of all: diastasis recti. Your abdominal muscles normally sit close together, separated by connective tissue called the linea alba. But sometimes that gap stretches and widens, most commonly after pregnancy because the growing uterus creates prolonged outward pressure on the abdominal wall. People with diastasis recti often experience low back pain and pelvic floor dysfunction because the core no longer stabilizes the spine correctly. Sometimes after years of poor heavy lifting mechanics or abdominal pressure, the center of the abdomen bulges outward during crunching instead of tightening inward. And many people think they just have stubborn belly fat, when the actual issue is structural separation in the abdominal wall itself. Some even make it worse by training harder. And maybe that's the strangest part of this entire video. Your body is constantly adapting, constantly compensating, constantly hiding problems by rerouting stress somewhere else, until one day, the compensation itself becomes the symptom. So now I'm curious, which one did you just discover on your own body? Because once you start noticing these hidden patterns, you suddenly realize the human body was never as symmetrical as we pretend it is. And honestly, that might only be the beginning.